so glad I read this. I couldn't read past 180 pages. That's how the reading went of those two books. Now it's time to take a look at the video itself. I may or may not have misplaced my Bluetooth headphones for the past few months and it's really starting to concern me, so we're going with the big chunky over-ears, which I don't usually wear when I have my glasses on, so this will be fun. Let's do it like this and take a look. Look at my old shelves. This was in my parents' spare room. The first book that will burn up in a year is The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinger. This is a middle grade fantasy about a young girl who has a thirst for science and she finds her dad's disgraced notes and starts doing stuff. Okay, The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinger went in an unhaul in about September when I was trying to get rid of a load of books before I moved into this house with my partner. I had to really narrow it down to move the books to a different house. This one went. I just didn't care about it anymore. It'd been too long. I forgot I even had it on this list. Then next up is Delirium by Lauren Oliver. Yeah, same thing with this one. This is because it is a dystopian, that's why I picked it up, but it's all about love and that's why it went. I am not fantastic with romances, so I just thought I might as well get rid of that one. I still haven't read Three Sisters, Three Queens by Fiddle Gregory. Three Sisters, Three Queens, that's one of the ones that I just read, DNF'd. So yeah, you saw what I thought about that one. I should have just unhauled it. I mainly kept that one because of interest and because it was from my little sister, Kane, so it's her fault. The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This is a classic YA fantasy. Oh, and now someone decides to make a noise outside my window. Wonderful. We're just gonna have to deal with the noise. The Queen of the Tearling. This is a YA or new adult high fantasy that I've heard very mixed things about, and to be honest, I just didn't care enough. I could have loved it possibly. I ended up loving Daughter of Smoke and Bone and that had been on the same kind of list as The Queen of the Tearling, but it never got its chance and it went in that big unhaul. Sorry about the noise. I don't know what's going on outside. Labyrinth by Kate Moss. Labyrinth. I read this one. It took me forever. This is a historical fantasy set in the south of France, combining kind of ancient Egyptian and Middle Ages France with the modern day, or as modern as you can be because it was written at the time. This was fine. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it enough that I'm still keeping Sepulchre and Citadel and I want to read those. I'm getting a little more into historical fantasy, so well, I'm also better with big books. I wasn't when I read this. This was one of the big books that I was like forcing myself through, so we'll see. Then we have Truth Sister by Phil Gilvin. Truth Sister by Phil Gilvin. I got this as an ARC at the MYA Lit Fest in 2018 when I first made my channel. It's in my first ever video on this channel, which is awful if you want to go laugh at me. But yeah, I picked it up then because it's a dystopian kind of with a very feminist base and I thought it sounded cool, but again this is one that I just lost interest in over time. I've never heard anyone else talk about it. It went to hopefully a better home, and also this one specifically, although it was up for grabs, it's not an ARC, it's not marked as an ARC, it looks like it's a finished copy, so I was able to donate that so someone else can actually get to read it. Then we've got Aru Halls of Hell by David Meredith. Aru Halls of Hell. Okay, so I was sent this by the author to review, and so that's why this was on the list, because, you know, I had that motivation of I really should read this. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I found Aru, the first book, more interesting than I had expected, but I didn't have enough interest to care to keep reading the second one, so I donated them both, so hopefully someone else will pick them up and love them and discover this author's work. I do think it's surprisingly a really unique plot story and plot line, and quite decently well written. It just didn't quite hit with the style that I like to read when I'm reading my dystopians. And also I seem to be going slightly away from dystopians that aren't fully embedded in the scientific side of things. So then we've got A Stranger in the House by Shari Lupina. This was gifted to me by my aunt after she read it. A Stranger in the House by Shari Lupina. I read this. I should not have read it. I gave it 2 or 3 stars. It was dull and boring. It's just your very basic thriller, like mystery thriller. I don't know which one's the first one. I think Girl Online on Tour is the first one. Yes, it is. There we go. Girl Online Going Solo and Girl Online on Tour. They are both gone. They both got on hold. I was keeping them because of the emotional factor. They were linked to my mum. My mum got me the first one. I used to read a little bit more contemporary when I was younger. That noise is pissing me off. But yeah, I tried to read whichever one was the second one, I think. On Tour, Girl Online on Tour. I tried to read that and I just really actively didn't want to read it. So I just gave up. And those got donated and they will be in a better home now. And then the last book of the 10 is Smile is Fair by Rebecca Levine. Oh wow, okay, so I've managed all of them. Awesome. So the last book of the 10 was Smile is Fair by Rebecca Levine, and as you now know, I loved Smile is Fair. It's so good. I'm continuing on with the trilogy and I'm so pissed off that it took me that long to read. So, out of all of them, I unhauled the vast majority of them. I read a few and was disappointed by the ones that I read, and then I read one singular high fantasy and loved it. Maybe I should have kept Queen of the Tearling and read it, because maybe I would have liked it. But yeah, it took me just over the year, but you know, with everything that's been happening, I think you guys will give me a little bit of leeway. But yeah, that went surprisingly well. Awesome! Now I have to do it again. And I wonder which books will be on the will expire list this time round. If you know my TBR, because I know some of you guys know my TBR probably better than I do, then let me know some books that you think should be on this year's expiry list. Thank you so much for watching, folks. I apologise for how much of a mess this was. If you managed to somehow get to the end, put a star emoji in your comment because you are a star for having gotten this far. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye!